Hi, I'm Dr. Annette Feravich from Healthy Mind, Body, Spirit, and I am here on Labor Day, and so the lake might be just a little bit busy, but you can always watch my videos if you subscribe to my YouTube channel right below here, or you can always visit me on the internet at www.healthymindbodyspirit.net. So today I am bringing you the fifth in our series on self-esteem. And this fifth video is on entity versus mastery. We're going to take a look at these two different phenomenon and then take a look at which one might be better to help us improve our self-esteem. So now we're starting to narrow in on particular behaviors that might help us increase our self-esteem. Now, before I go into an explanation of the differences between entity and mastery, what I would like you to do is I would like you to take this survey that I have here for you. And this survey will tell you whether or not you tend to be more entity motivated or oriented, or in this case, for this survey, they're calling it incremental. We're going to call it mastery, though, because that gives us a better idea of exactly what they really mean when they are taking a look at this assessment. So go ahead, I have this assessment there for you, and take a few minutes to take the assessment. So what I would like you to first do is make sure that you're focusing on answering the 8 questions that they have there for you, with 1 being strongly agree, 2 agree, 3 mostly agree, 4 mostly disagree, 5 disagree, and 6 strongly disagree. So why is it that we want to talk about this topic of entity versus mastery? Well, if you remember in our last video, what we talked about were different ways to increase self-esteem. And if you recall, these different ways weren't always positive ways. So sometimes we increase our self-esteem by derogating others or putting them down. And we see lots of research that supports that when we put other people down, we actually do boost our levels of self-esteem. But this doesn't always end up in desirable consequences. If we are ostracizing people, then likely that's not going to benefit us in the long run. So, if we want to increase our levels of self-esteem in positive ways, what we want to do is we want to master certain tasks. We want to be the master of whatever it is that we choose to set out as our goal. Now, what I would like to do is I would like to show you the differences between entity and mastery. So by now, I hope that you took the quiz to find out whether or not you have a tendency to be more entity-oriented or mastery-oriented, and now we'll find out a little bit more about what that actually means. When an individual is entity-oriented, what that suggests is that they have a view of themselves as being fixed, or whatever their talents are, or whatever their gifts are, or whatever their strengths are, whatever their weaknesses are. They have a tendency to see those as being fixed, a fixed orientation. If you believe that your talents can be improved and changed over time, we call that an incremental orientation, or much more common, a mastery orientation. So in this example that I have here for you, we are looking at your view of intelligence. So let's take a look at the outcomes, because the outcomes are what's very important about these orientations. And this is what it has to do with self-esteem. You can either perform high or low. And then there are behavior patterns that we engage in based on our entity or mastery orientations. So what we want to readily focus on then is which one looks different. Right? Which one of these outcomes is not like the other outcomes? And here we see that individuals who perform low, when they are entity oriented, have a behavior pattern that we call helpless. So let's explain that then. If we look at entity orientation where the performance level is high, so I believe that I have this talent, and I believe that the talent is written in my DNA. And that's the reason why I perform so well, because I meant to be a baseball player, or because I meant to be an engineer, or because I meant to be a race car driver. I am able to master it because it's written in my DNA, and my performance will be high. If I don't perform well in whatever the task is, then likely from an entity perspective, I don't have the talent for it. And so, what ends up happening if I don't have the talent for something? If I don't believe that I have the talent and I need to have the talent in order to master something, I give up. I typically would give up, right? So I don't have the talent to be a ballet dancer, and so I give up. And sometimes that certainly makes sense, doesn't it, right? If I don't have the body, if I don't have the agility, if I don't have the structure to be a ballet dancer, I likely cannot be a ballet dancer. And rather than be fruitless in my efforts, I should likely try and find something different. So, entity orientation can lead us to giving up. Let's take a look at this mastery orientation, which is a learning orientation. It is then based on whether or not we have learned the skill. And as we learn the skill, then we become better and better at it. From this perspective, I can perform well and, of course, believe that I have mastered the skill, right? So, if I, using our example of IQ, if I perform well on IQ tests and I'm very smart in school, then I will have mastered intelligence. If I perform low, however, and have a mastery orientation where I believe that learning can occur, it's not just simply a talent, but I believe that learning can occur, then I can perform low and yet still end up feeling that I've mastered something. Why? Because I see myself as better than yesterday. So I am mastering it along the way. Now, let's take a look at this from a self-esteem perspective. We said that some ways that we can increase our self-esteem is by derogating others. But we can also see that we can increase our self-esteem by mastering a skill. And if we believe that we can improve that skill on a regular basis, maybe a daily basis, by taking my music lessons or by doing my homework or reading the literature in my field, then I can continue to learn and continue to master something. And as I make those gains, those things feed my self-esteem. And so feeding your self-esteem in a way that allows you to master something are valid ways that we can increase our self-esteem. And we're going to find out in future episodes that by mastering something, we are increasing our self-esteem on a regular basis, and then that self-esteem is then based in a solid foundation of who you are. And that's what's so important about self-esteem, is having a real foundation for how we feel about ourselves. And so we started this series talking about cognitive dissonance and biases because it is our natural inclination to protect our self-esteem by distorting information to fit our view better. But the reality is that we can increase self-esteem in real ways when we build our self-esteem on a solid foundation for who we are. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. Thank you for joining me in this video series on self-esteem. Please make sure that you visit me on the web at www.healthymindbodyspirit. You can also find me on LinkedIn under Dr. Annette Feravich. And please remember to subscribe to my YouTube videos so that you will always be updated when I have a new video in the series available.